every year Iowa and Iowa State is going to be a good game. This is a rivalry that typically is a close contest and a very emotional and very well played game in terms of the passion in which both teams play, the passion in which these fan bases cheer for their teams. And once again, we find these teams in similar positions where they are looking to have successful years and they are looking to build some momentum with this game. Both teams come into the game 1-0, and they come in with very different experiences in their first week. Iowa State struggled to put away North Dakota, though they won 21-3. It felt like the defense really had things under control for the most part, and it never really felt like this game was in question. Iowa had kind of a similar slow start and figured things out in the second half and won 40-0 against Illinois State. I think that they're going to be, you kind of throw the things out and you throw those games out, honestly, when these two play because how close it's going to be. The line is Iowa at 2.5, and it says a lot about what these teams can do to each other and what we should expect in terms of a back and forth battle. Now, Iowa has a commanding lead in this series, 47-23, but that doesn't mean that Iowa State isn't capable of getting the win here. The big question for each side, I think first for Iowa State is, can you win the battle in the trenches? I think that Iowa State has a number of talented players with a lot of potential, but going against Iowa's offensive line is a different challenge. And Iowa is very much a physical team that wants to run the football, and getting the trenches figured out is going to be a big question for that defense. On the flip side, I think that Iowa has really good defensive linemen, and Iowa State's offensive line is in that same boat. And that's going to be the big. I'm not questioning Iowa State's talent. They have plenty of talent. It's just that Iowa is very good on both sides of the football as well. That's where to me, the edge is going to be. If you're physical and you are slowing down Iowa's offense, defensively for Iowa State, you're in good hands. On the flip side, if you're dominating and getting the run established and finding balance for this offense, Iowa State feels like they're going to be a really good team in this game, but also in 2024. For Iowa, I think you have to question, how do you contain Iowa State's playmakers? This passing attack wasn't exactly explosive last week, as much as we'd like to see, but Iowa State has plenty of players that are going to make your life difficult if you're not careful. And this is an Iowa team that obviously is still trying to replace Hooper DeJean, but you have plenty of players coming back that can make that happen, which makes the matchup to watch so interesting because you have Iowa State's wide receivers, guys like Jalen Noel that are going to be really fun to watch. And they go against Iowa's defensive backs and what you can do against that Iowa State group of wide receivers. Again, part of it starts up front, it starts in the trenches, but also keep an eye on that matchup. That's going to be a really fun one to watch downfield. And I think that really plays a huge role in determining who ultimately wins this game. Now, the players to watch for Iowa, I think that you have to look at this offense, and everybody's going to talk about, oh, the Iowa offense needs to figure things out. And I get that. And I think Iowa fans are just honestly sick of hearing about the offensive struggles. But I think if you get this group in a groove, you're feeling pretty good about what you can do. It's again, Iowa fans aren't oblivious to the fact that this is not going to be one of the best offenses in college football, but you have a new offensive coordinator and you have players that can make plays. Cade McNamara is obviously going to be under the spotlight. Everyone is going to talk about him and what he can do for this offense. His performance really dictates what Iowa's going to do. But I think that at his peak, he can be a good quarterback. I think that he can be one of those guys that just distributes the ball and makes the smart throw. And that's what they need. This is an offense that wants to be physical running the football. They're not going to change that identity just because they have a new offensive coordinator. They want to run the football. Caleb Johnson showed that he can be a good back for them. And if they can find some balance with the passing attack, that makes them a really fun team to watch, especially with the schedule that they have. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, everybody's got to pay attention to Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson, as well as the defensive line. The linebackers in Higgins and Jackson, those are two guys that are going to be really fun to watch in this game because of what they're going to be asked to do. This is not a similar offense that you're facing to yours. So you're going to have to figure out what Iowa State is trying to do offensively, where they're trying to move playmakers, what kind of different formations they're running, and what keys you can read from there. Higgins and Jackson, if you're going to ask two linebackers to figure that out, those are two guys I feel pretty good about. Aaron Graves is someone who had a good game last week, and he will play a big role in helping stop the run this week as well. For Iowa State, I think everything starts up front, but also Rocco Becht has to be good. I don't think he's going to have a monster game where he's throwing for over 300 yards, but he needs to be efficient. Now, it's definitely possible with the talent he has at wide receiver and the skill position talent to go over 300 yards and have a big game, but he needs to be efficient. Iowa's defense is so well coached and they have so much talent that if you are not careful, it's going to be a long game. So Rocco Becht, at worst, just needs to be efficient. We talked about Jalen Noel. You have a number of playmakers that can get the job done, moving the ball down the field. It's just a matter of who's going to step up. Again, you may not have a ton of opportunities, but you need to capitalize on them when you do. On the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be a physical matchup for them, but you also have to be disciplined. This is a very different type of matchup for Iowa State. And honestly, it's going to help them face a couple of the Big 12 teams that they will face this year. But it's also Iowa. This is not a new team to them. It's a rivalry game for a reason, and you're going to see them quite a bit. So everything starts up front. Guys like Tyler Enyendum is going to play a big role. The defense is going to play that unique system that they play, and the safeties will also be part of it. Bo Frailer is a big body that can play obviously deep downfield, but he's also physical enough to play near the line of scrimmage. That will play a big role in how Iowa State can slow down this Iowa rushing attack. Again, Iowa wants to run the football. There's no secret to that. It's not new information, and Iowa State knows this. They just have to execute. Finding ways to stop the run is going to be a big key. And I think the biggest thing for Iowa State is last week was not inspiring. I think winning 21-3 against North Dakota. Now, North Dakota is a solid FCS team, but you're Iowa State. You should have played better. And that's really what's hanging me up right now. Iowa obviously has its own shortcomings, but it feels like right now Iowa is the better team. They've obviously had a successful run, I should say, in this series. And it feels like that continues, but Iowa State definitely has the talent to pull out the win and, if you will, pull out the upset. So stay tuned for this one. It's going to be fun as usual. It's going to probably be low scoring, and we'll see which team can figure out their strengths and also solve some of their concerns they have from week one.